This is Martin Sheen. He's 36 years old, and he's not okay. He's not acting here. His hands are shaking, his face is pale, and he's actually bleeding. That's real blood, and this is not a movie set. This is a hotel room in the Philippines, where Sheen is having a full mental breakdown. The camera keeps rolling. He punches the mirror, collapses to the floor, and begins sobbing. The crew wanted to stop filming, but the director didn't.
If Marty dies, I want to hear that everything's okay until I say Marty is dead. You got it?
Because this film was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to take you into madness itself.
This movie was made in the tradition of Irwin Allen.
And the making of it was even crazier than the story it tells. This is Apocalypse Now, a movie that nearly killed its cast, its crew, and its director.
Coppola had been in the jungle 6 months when the bills started coming into the studio. An invoice from Bell Aviation for blowing up 800 helicopters, $4.5 million.
And yet, somehow, it became one of the greatest films ever made.
Before Schindler's List, before Saving Private Ryan, before Full Metal Jacket, there was this. A film so chaotic and dangerous that it blurred the line between fiction and reality. Francis Ford Coppola once said, "My movie is not about Vietnam. My movie is Vietnam."
Film is not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam.
And the truth behind that quote is more literal than you think, because what happened behind the camera mirrored the insanity of war itself. Chapter 1. Into the Heart of Madness. It's 1969. The Vietnam War is reaching its breaking point. In the film, we follow Captain Benjamin Willard, a soldier sent on a classified mission to find and assassinate a rogue colonel who has gone insane. But as Willard travels deeper into the jungle, he discovers that maybe the madness isn't isolated. Maybe it's everywhere. That descent, physical, psychological, and moral, is what Apocalypse Now captures better than any other war film. But what makes it haunting isn't just the story. It's that the real journey to make the movie was just as dangerous.
Every day, 100 problems. But I don't know what I'm doing.
Chapter 2. The Three Forces and Pre-Production.
There were 3 people who shaped this film into existence, and all 3 nearly lost everything doing it. First, Francis Ford Coppola, the director. Fresh off The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2, he was at the peak of his career. But instead of making another safe success, he decided to risk everything on an anti-war epic that nobody believed could be made. He put up his own money, mortgaged his house, and flew hundreds of cast and crew into the Philippines.
Because, I mean, of course, the guy had mortgaged his home and everything else to be able to make this movie.
A place already in political turmoil, to recreate Vietnam from scratch.
Nothing is so terrible as a pretentious movie. I mean, a movie that aspires for something really terrific and doesn't pull it off is shit, it's scum.
He told investors it would take 16 weeks. It took over a year. Second, John Milius, the original screenwriter. He was obsessed with war stories and had written the script as a wild, hallucinatory version of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad.
And I came out an hour and a half later, and he had convinced me that this was the first film that would win a Nobel Prize,
When Coppola took over, he rewrote and expanded it into something far more symbolic. Not just about war, but about the human soul. And third, Marlon Brando, the legend, the myth. He was cast as Colonel Kurtz, the rogue officer Willard is sent to kill. He was supposed to be lean, terrifying, and philosophical, but when he arrived on set, late, he was overweight, unprepared, and hadn't read the script.
There's no acting with Marlon. There's behavior and there's honesty and truth. As soon as you start acting, he will pull you out of that, He would say,
Coppola was horrified. They spent days just talking in the dark, improvising entire scenes. Most of Kurtz's dialogue, including the iconic "horror, the horror," was written on the spot.
The horror.
But the chaos didn't stop there. A typhoon destroyed the sets. Helicopters were borrowed from the Philippine military, who kept pulling them away mid-scene to fight actual rebels. Martin Sheen had a heart attack mid-shoot and had to be carried through the jungle.
Could be, I chose to have that heart attack. I needed to have that heart attack. There was a part of me that was already dead. I had to die to that part of myself.
Dennis Hopper was constantly high.
So you got all that in the team. I do, but you see the director, the director said, you don't know your line.
The sound engineer nearly drowned. And yet, despite everything, Coppola refused to stop. He said, "We had too much of our own money, our own lives, invested in it. It wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a war."
I don't care if I'm pretentious or not pretentious, or if I've done it or I haven't done it. All I know is that I am going to see this movie.
Chapter 3. Making Hell on Earth. From the very start, Coppola's mantra was clear. If you're going to show madness, you have to live it. Every scene was shot in real locations, in unbearable humidity, with real explosions and real fear. The crew worked in jungles infested with snakes, heat, and disease. Actors weren't given full scripts. Coppola wanted their confusion to feel genuine. The iconic helicopter attack set to Ride of the Valkyries, those explosions were real. The beach assault, with flames erupting and soldiers screaming, completely practical. Coppola's demand for realism bordered on obsession. He even fired Harvey Keitel, the original lead, weeks into filming because he didn't look broken enough. He wanted Sheen, because Sheen had darkness in his eyes. By this point, the line between fiction and reality had vanished. The actors weren't playing soldiers anymore. They were soldiers, lost in a jungle that was eating them alive. Chapter 4. Madness becomes meaning. Despite all the chaos, Coppola never lost sight of what Apocalypse Now was truly about. Not war, but human nature.
That's their greatest horror, is to be pretentious. Because I want people to come and see it.
The jungle wasn't the setting, it was a metaphor, a mirror for the darkness inside every person. As Sheen's character journeys deeper into the heart of darkness, the film becomes less about Vietnam and more about civilization itself, how thin the line is between order and chaos. When Willard finally finds Kurtz, the once noble colonel is now worshipped as a god by local followers. He's turned the horror of war into religion. Kurtz, the horror. The horror.
The horror.
And for a moment, you understand. It isn't just about Vietnam. It's about us. Chapter 5. Truth and Consequences. The premiere was a disaster. The film wasn't finished. The sound was off, the lighting wrong, the pacing uneven. Coppola walked onto the con stage and said, "My film is not about Vietnam. My film is Vietnam. We had too much access to too much money, and little by little, we went insane."
My film is not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam. We had access to too much money, too much equipment, and little by little we went insane.
And that insanity, somehow, turned into art. When Apocalypse Now finally released in 1979, critics were divided. Some called it incoherent. Others called it the most powerful war film ever made. Over time, it became legendary, a mirror held up to humanity's darkest instincts. Even decades later, it remains relevant. Roger Deakins called it one of the greatest examples of chaotic beauty. He said, "Coppola captured something impossible. He made madness look mesmerizing." Just like Come and See, it refuses to glorify war. There are no heroes, no victories, only the collapse of morality. After the film wrapped, Coppola never made another movie like it again. He spent years in silence, almost bankrupt, haunted by what he'd created. And yet, he said he'd do it all over again. Because Apocalypse Now isn't a film about destruction. It's about confronting what destruction reveals. It's about looking into the heart of darkness and realizing that it looks back. A former soldier who watched the film years later told Coppola, "Everything you showed was true, but the part that terrified me most was how beautiful it looked." And that's the paradox, how something born from chaos, danger, and pain can end up being one of the most beautiful reflections of humanity ever filmed. As Conrad once wrote, "The mind of man is capable of anything." And so was Coppola's. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon.